Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here, specifically in this special venue, and I have already taken part of many events here. And now, in a very special moment after the pandemic, and we see the many efforts that make all people cooperate and work in this industry. I'd like to thank Marcos, very especially Marcos Carvalho, and I'd also like to thank Victor Magnani and their employees. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you for your invitation. And I would humbly like to share with you a few experiences and concepts that I have, and some ideas of this new UNESCO concept uh, regarding the 1,000 UNESCO towns, the future of urban space. My name is Felipe Chibás Ortiz. I'm a professor at the University of São Paulo, and we have this Latin America cooperation program, and I'm also a coordinator for Latin America and the Caribbean, UNESCO MIL alias, that works to support 1,000 cities and also IT. And I believe that this is a very interesting topic, and I leave here two other topics, and it's very challenging indeed. And we are here, we are people who came here because of the challenges and overcoming them and continuing. We should turn cities literate. It's very interesting. Have you ever thought about that? About getting an entire city literate, but it's not the regular literacy that we're talking about, but the sort of literacy that is slightly different. And here we are talking about teaching people how this hybrid reality works and how this new reality, including metaverse, works, and how we will make our old jobs become new jobs. Now we have the new generations. They can see this. They are born immersed in technology. And how will we teaching these new people? And therefore, we talk about this informational literacy. And we have this MIL. Uh, that's because we are talking about literacy, because we want to turn all these cities literate. But we are not only talking about smart cities and having technology only. It means how to use technology to the good of humanity with ethical purposes and with a reason. And we start talking about that, then the conversation goes another way. We know that UNESCO is concerned about science, information, culture, and education, and UNESCO is very interested about that. We have many countries, and now I've been at an event that was held in Nigeria at Abuja, and I also attended an event at Arequipa in Peru, where these topics were discussed at a minister and president level, and also mayor level. But we also have other personalities talking these topics, and they dispute. They actually discuss these topics. And what else do we have here? We should literate city. Is that happening or not? I ask you this question. Gabriel, I want to hear you. I want to hear your thoughts. Yes, this is something very common now, all the time. Is that taking place now or not? So thank you. So guys, we have to turn cities literate because we do have technology, but sometimes we have some very terrible things happening that put an end to this technology functionality. But we have to educate people from all ages. And what else we have here? Does this happen in our society now or not? Well, I see people smiling. So does that happen to you every single day? Yes, this also takes place, and if everything happens, we don't you believe that we should learn how to work differently and educate our children differently, and also learn how to rest differently? Yeah, precisely. This is the proposal of the MIL cities. It's all about learning and unlearn what we have already knew. Have you already been to India? So India. So how do we think in India? Like everyone in a beauty position. So it's a little bit of it what you can see here in this picture. And most Indian cities are this way. But we don't have to go far. We can think and see our cities in Brazil and São Paulo, but they are not like that Indian city. But we have to organize human mobility using technology and also ethics and respect for diversity. It's a joint construction with participative management using technology again. But we should have a vision that would allow us to work differently. And this vision is here. And what are the starting points of the MIL cities of UNESCO? And um, these cities with informational literacy. We have 89% of the world population living in cities. And we have the 2030 agenda. Everyone is aware of this agenda. We also have this integral health. So if you think that an individual wakes up in the morning and has to take two buses because they live far away from the downtown São Paulo, and they have to get to São Paulo, and afterwards they have another hour to come back home every day. So does this individual have health? And when we walk through São Paulo and we are not able to ride bikes because sometimes we can, or we might be overrun by a car, is there any health involved in here? But these concerns are involved in smart cities that sometimes we not even see or even notice. And what else we have here? We have these healthy cities. So we have UNESCO concepts, which I am showing you. So smart cities, yes. This concept is included in the MIL cities. It's an inclusive concept that encompasses smart cities and other concepts, and we are not excluding, we are adding. So if you are interested in this topic, you can access this document. And we also have authors from 20 authors from the 5 continents here. And here we have the 5 key objectives for the 2030 agenda. So I'm having some interference here in my headphone, and that potentializes this proposal of UNESCO's MIL cities. We have health and well-being, quality education, gender equality. It's very important because oftentimes we see the subject we have fewer girls than boys, and let alone in leadership roles. And that has everything to do with the companies. Whoever plans algorithms and AI need to be people who feel uh, on skin something that other people would not feel, and it's a point of concern, and we should change in the future. And now, reducing inequalities, including financial inequalities. Today we have something called financial citizenship to teach people how to use their investments and how they should invest. So this is something that is not taught in schools. In traditional schools, we have them to teach how to um, to make people be aware of that. And we also have sustainable, connected cities, peace, justice, and efficient institutions. And this involves e-government, but with the participative government. But not only installing technology, and we have South Korean highly technological school where things would not work because they are not consulting the population. So we have to have software platforms that talk to people actually. And we said that in order to emulate a city, we should have these 5 innovation agents, which are governments, of course, the policymakers, then the academia, of course, professors, students from all levels, and even researchers, of course, and educators, companies. They have to be taking part in this dialogue, and companies, uh, technology-based or more big companies, and also companies that are traditional companies, and also marketing companies, communication markets. So it's essential. Citizens and artists, which is the fourth factor. We must have these artists. They have to touch people's souls deeply. Sometimes a phrase or a quote might inspire people, like Angelina Jolie, who said this, and another person said that, and Felipe, this kind of a crazy guy, said this, and women and men identify with Angelina Jolie, for instance. So we have this fifth factor, which is the common citizen who does not think as an entrepreneur or is looking for profit, or who is not looking for books, or who does not think about other agents like the governments, uh, who are concerned about the next uh, elections, or artists. So the regular individual that gets their lunchbox and go to their workplace and then come back home, and perhaps that individual might not have the salary that he or she would like to have, but we should use this e-governance in the institutions or in those MIL cities. So now we are talking about this very concept, the MIL cities. So that's on the official UNESCO site. So we have the framework that is developed in 2018 that propose cities that use AI and other new technologies, but uh, with mediatic informational literacy and educating critical and creative think and fighting fake news, deep fakes, and post-truth. Every everything that involves having a picture or an image of some person talking something which is not right. And ethics and respect to diversity focus on citizens' value of ecology in a sustainable way, and a new affection toward urban spaces, promote and preventive health based on participative management. And as I said, so this framework would include educational, cultural, innovative cities. So what is different about this model? We should put the citizen in the center. We should acknowledge that right to communication is a right, a universal right, as declared by the United Nations, which is one of the organizations that is competitive with UNESCO. But here we have 3 indicators that allow people to work with technology in those cities, but focused on the cities. But this is what I'd like to highlight, and that would connect the local governments, and we are talking about talking participation, museums and libraries. It's very important. Humanities memory is in museums and libraries, and this is very important. We focus on that a lot. Also, integrated health, spirituality, and I mean, spirituality is not only about religiousness, and we should have this respect to all religions, education with mediatic and informational literacy, with critical thinking and creative thinking. Associations, unions should also have their room in the cities. AI, startups, and digital channels. But the way I said, with the participation of women, of different people, of all the 65 sexual gender. We are just thinking about binary behavior. We have these 55 different genders. Anyway, we are, I believe that 0 and 1 brought us here with all the technology that we have today. All this thought is what bases AI. But thinking about the supercomputers that would not thinking about 0 and 1, just imagine how many things else we would be discovering. If you got here with this rather limited thought, just using 0 1, with these entire technologies around us, and just imagine if we start thinking about AI in another way other than 0 and 1, so that we could build our algorithms. And also we would have our 11 indicated, which are youngsters, elderly women, and integration metrics. So this model here, well, I still have some interference here, and well, this model is very, very important because we are being shown the citizen in the city using all of this technology with arms that can integrate it all. And again, this has been very well discussed in governmental and mayor spheres from the entire world. And as I said, in a nutshell, in a declaration that is being prepared in Nigeria by UNESCO, it has approximately 190 countries being in favor of this sort of new cities. As we've talked about these smart cities in Brazil and around the world, were not able to solve complex problems like the pandemic or the discourse that we are facing at political and health forums. We were not able to solve those post-truth issues. If we have an alert from a certain platform, so for you not to read a certain piece of news or not disclose these fake news, anyway, it's something that people should discover themselves where a certain piece of news is or not a fake news. So these concepts have to do with infodemia, which is a concept created by OMS. Infodemia, which is information pandemic, which is affecting countries, frontiers, and something that is very discussed nowadays.
So we have an example of mill cities. So you're asking, okay, what is a mill city? Okay, let's see an example here. You see, another thing, sometimes it's just a neighborhood, not necessarily the entire city. Sometimes it's just a community. Mind you, we started back in 2018. It's rather recent. Casatema new buildings, they must produce 30% of the energy they consume. As you know, Casatema is a neighborhood in Helsinki in Finland. The City Hall has an innovation department, but it's not like any other department of innovation we have here, for example, in São Paulo, but it's a department in which the citizens are co-creators and testers of new innovations, meaning they're precipitative. It's not only, okay, we have an innovation department, we will determine here where we place the webcams. Okay, this is done today in a shallow way. We must have a consultation, a requisite webcams to ensure safety. We have to check on the population. Where do you want to place the webcams? Talk about something basic here. We must train here. That's what we said about the education. When we said security, we're talking about collective security. We have to train people behind the cameras, because most times those people that are surveilling a neighborhood or a street situation, they have preconception. Most times we have facial recognition, facial programs that sometimes they're preconceptual. Yeah, so we can use technology to determine vulnerable social groups. So we have to change algorithms, and before that, the startups so they can have indigenous women and all diversities of people, and as well as religions, with no exclusion. And speaking of which, it's very important for us to have inside these diversities, we have capacitated people inside startups, because nobody will be able to see a problem if those are not that kind of people. So I observed that, for instance, inside Bradesco, I saw a very nice experience in which we had people who program and are also people that were handicapped. So it's hard to imagine like a person that does not see or have hearing programs, and I will not understand their difficulties. It's important to have those people inside those startups, and political strategies that will enable that, and proposals like UNESCO has. That's why we're talking about MIL cities. Yeah, let's carry on. I want to talk about an example, another MIL city. It's a fantastic city, super smart city. I can even send out more information about it. I want to be a little bit more synthetic so I don't extrapolate time here. What we have here is Songdo. See, they have governance, which is participative, but it's been criticized because it's a technocratic city that does not listen to people, even though they have governance. What we have here, it's a food for thought here. Yeah, we have cyborgs, but it's robotized. It's not human. We use artificial intelligence, but in an intrusive manner, excessive vigilance to people. Do you understand what we're saying here? Smart city on itself is not only a solution to the problems. We have to have a city that goes further in. We have indicators of new cities from that standpoint. Number, percentage of bodies in decisions for they use electronic governance with that in mind. Number of public services are digitalized, and number of people in the city that solve their problems through the city hall over the internet. So see a comparison here of three cities. We have Cidades MIL in Central America, Rome in Europe, and São Paulo. Yeah, this is a research we carried out, me, my colleagues, and my students in the MIL cities discipline, and a level of stricto centers. What we have here, look how interesting. We have requisites in which São Paulo performs better than Rome, for instance, and vice versa. Even so, the best score was in the case of City of Mexico. Look how surprising. It was not Rome. So notice how this look of a differentiate Mexico City is a cultural city, also considered to be creative. There's a tradition to be working with UNESCO. So see how this is also interesting. We have metrics to assess that, because if, in case you want to implement that in cities you wish here in Brazil, we have startups and digital initiatives that I talked a little bit about here. Whoever's interested can look for this book here with more in-depth information regarding the subject, innovation for entrepreneurship, startups and companies in the current world. We also have the app available at UNESCO's site. We are developing together with a team to diagnose cities due to those three indicators and 253 doctors I mentioned. I have the steps to assemble it. Whoever wants to assemble those, and we'll provide that support here as well. Diagnostics, the showing of the diagnostic, the people engagement inside the city, implementation and assessment and monitoring. What else do we have here? The city who adopted this model will have culture and citizen identity, new applications being produced by the city hall, diagnostic by indicators of metrics, director plan for innovation, also consulting services for city halls and corporation, very important. The network of City MIL in UNESCO, very important. You're not alone. You're being part of an effort network in that sense. What else do we have here? This discipline, as I mentioned, is being taught today at this moment precisely inside the University of São Paulo. Yeah, the human. We have a lot to talk about under this subject. Moving on, we have those texts that you may consult. The Smart City and MIL Cities, metrics inspired by UNESCO, marketing, communication, technology, and innovation, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, yeah. And the last one that is about to be launched by the University of São Paulo, MIL Cities, indicators, metrics, and cases, yeah. So we have researches like the one I showed about the city, showing with comparisons like it is in what it is like in the city of Mexico, São Paulo, Rome, yeah. Always with this perspective in mind. We're also founding inside the University of São Paulo this International Center for Innovation for the development of MIL cities with the support of many investors and entities. Also, we are taking in proposals on whoever wants to participate, researchers, institutions, as well as companies that wish to participate inside this effort, supported by UNESCO as well, on an international, regional level, and of course local. It is great interest to us to whether there's any manager or researcher that wishes to join us. And to wrap up, I want to read here this sentence by UNESCO director that said this year, and Punta del Este, I was there. I will invite the member states, the companies of technology and the media community, as well as the rest of civil society, all of you, to unite to create a new digital configuration, right? Mrs. Audrey Ozole, the general director at UNESCO, she's saying about the importance of MIL cities for development of society as a whole. I thank very much your participation. I would like to have an exchange with you. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. Gabi is looking at me here. But it was very nice, guys, to be able to share a little bit modestly our ideas and experiences regarding the subject. Here's my information. You can take a picture if you want. And of course, we may talk. Thank you so much.
Sabe aquele problema que te faz transpirar e para causar